welcome to the Prolific Pulse Poetry Podcast on YouTube. This is your host, Lisa Tomei. Today we have Bethany Barton, who also goes by Bethany Nicole. There is actually another Bethany Barton out there, and she does children's books, but Bethany Nicole does something totally different. So happy to have you here with us today, Bethany.
Thank you for having me.
Bethany is from Los Angeles, so a nice sunny area, and freelance writer and author, and she writes about all things dating and relationships, and actually has turned this into some poetry, some micro poetry, I guess you could call it. So I find that to be very interesting. I'm really interested to hear what she has to say about that. As one who was in the dating scene and finally met Mr. Right, I went through some interesting relationships through some of the dating sites and stuff, and I bet you probably hear some things as well.
Yes, I definitely hear some very interesting stories.
So tell us a bit about yourself, about your background, how you got into this.
Yeah, so I really started with social work as a type of career. I was doing that in Austin, in Texas. And I'd always been a writer, I'd always loved writing, but I grew up in North Carolina, a really small town, and I just didn't even conceptualize it as a career option. I didn't realize it would be something I could do. And it just really kept calling to me. And I picked up a lot of information for my book doing social work, but I knew at the end of the day that really wasn't what was going to be right for me.
Right.
So at that point, I left that job, moved to LA, and put the book together, and started kind of my career as freelance, and um, in that was putting out my poetry as well, and was just surprised at the response I got at that and how it got picked up and different things. So yeah, it was just kind of a journey to get to that part, but yeah.
That's quite a step from social work to poetry, but I have that background as well, so I can relate to
Oh
that. I mean, and you take
yeah.
so many things that come from life, and what you do with social work applies to what we do with poetry, I think. Always pulling things
Definitely.
into that. Now,
Right.
you're originally from North Carolina, and that's where I'm at in North Carolina. I'm in Raleigh.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I was from Brevard, so it's the very small western
Mhm.
part of North Carolina.
Oh, okay, so you're in the mountains.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. And you left North Carolina, went to California. Wow. Brave step. Well, Texas, then California.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have a book that's not quite out yet, if I understand it correctly. Can you tell us
Yes,
about
yes.
that?
Yeah, so the book is Apologies I Never Got, and it's dating and relationship horror stories phrased as apologies you never got from the person who never gave them to you. So I do kind of consider them as kind of micro poems because they do tell a story in maybe one or two lines, and they really sum up an entire event into that short little section. All of them are split up into categories. So there's one called 50 Worst Dates, which are first dates that go wrong. Then there's Love by the Gaslight, which is ones where people are gaslighted, and they're split up into these categories. And then the poems come through, and then I dive into kind of the underlying things going on with that relationship issue, whether it's, first dates or gaslighting or love languages or whatever it is that's
Mhm.
coming up in these apologies.
And so, in a way, it's kind of also an education about these particular types of things like gaslighting, which seems to be more and more, sometimes I hear more and more about. So,
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
do you have people write into you about their relationships to contribute to what you do?
Yes, yes, I do. I have a lot of them that are of my own. I have a lot of them that were friends, coworkers, and then I did open it up for people to submit. And so I do have some submissions, and then I've already started work on the sequel because I just was getting so many that couldn't fit into the first book. And so,
Wow.
uh, yeah, so I'm rounding out even the second book with some of the submissions.
Wow. That's going to be an interesting read, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably would it be accurate to say it's maybe a little bit of humor, a little bit of sorrow, a little bit of anger, a little bit of different kinds of emotions, mixed in.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely an emotional journey. But yeah, I think the baseline is, self-healing and forgiveness and kind of that sort of journey because, there's definitely humor and all these different components, but it's also about learning that we don't always get the apologies in life that we deserve, and
Hmm.
we have to learn to let that go. And one of the ways to let that go is, finding this outlet to kind of give them to yourself, see that, some of them are kind of humorous because they're so silly and ridiculous, and then to just, let it go so they don't follow you around and control your life. And, because if you're waiting to heal or move on based on someone giving you an apology, you could be waiting forever.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we all have one of the two apologies out there that we probably were waiting for and never did get. I can think
Yeah.
of a couple myself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe even a couple times I should have apologized.
Right, right.
Mm.
Yeah, because there is that aspect too of, especially with dating and relationships, a lot of people say like, why didn't I see this? Or how did I miss this? Or whatever. And so there is or why did I put up with it? And, there is an aspect of, allowing yourself to apologize to yourself of,
Mhm.
I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't see it. I didn't do this
Right.
or that. But it's like, that's okay. Now you know differently and
Hmm.
we can move past it.
Now, in your social work career, did you work with counseling people that gave you kind of this relationship experience to that background, or
So I
was it in
actually
another
worked.
area?
Yeah, so in Texas, it's called CPS, it's Child Protective Services.
Mm.
Yeah, so I actually
Yeah.
worked in that field. Yeah, so
Okay.
working with families to try to reunify once their children were already in custody of the state. So working with the kids and the parents and just kind of trying to see if it was something that could be done, and then finding permanency solutions for the kids if it wasn't. And I was in
Yeah.
that aspect, and then I also worked later on in my career with it. I worked with the families that were taking in the kids, so
Hmm.
working with how that affected their lives and their relationships with each other and this new child in their home, and helping them with resources and things like that.
Right. Okay. I worked with kids that were taken from homes mostly. Um,
Yeah,
counseled
yeah,
with them. So yeah.
yeah. I worked with the kids for a while too.
Hmm. So, well, then, you understand the importance of building a healthy relationship. And that's a wonderful background to be able to write something like this because you want to see people, I would guess, want to see people pretty happy with themselves and happy with the people that are around them.
Right. And I think what I really took from that too, moving forward with the book, was, seeing what happens when you let apologies you never got run your life. Because a lot of
Hmm.
these parents, were
Yeah.
maybe second generation into custody, they were in custody or whatever,
Hmm.
or they had situations growing up where, they had a lot of, ungiven apologies and a lot of things,
Hmm.
trauma, and they would let that kind of run their lives, and they would
Yeah.
let it be, I hate to say excuse, but they would say, well, my parents did this to me, and this and that, and you hear it, you understand obviously where they're coming from. They've experienced these really terrible things, but what I was trying to work with them to get was, but you're only hurting yourself. You're hurting
Hmm.
yourself, you're hurting your children. You're not punishing your parents by living this way. You're punishing yourself,
Right.
you're punishing your kids.
Exactly. And you
And
got to
that's
break that cycle somewhere.
right. The cycle has to be broken because it's not that you don't have valid reasons to be upset or to be hurt or to
Hmm.
be angry. They're very valid, but just getting people to that point of, but do you want to live your life this way? By
Hmm.
not dealing with that, is this really what you want to do? And
Hmm.
it's not. No one, the goal is you want to live a happy and fulfilled life, and people in and out of court with kids in and out of custody. I mean, or in rehabs and different things, like you're not happy. That's
Hmm.
not a good existence for you either. So,
Right.
and then with dating and relationships, it's not, you're not happy and healthy in a new relationship if you're dragging in
Hmm.
exes or past things. And so the goal really is to get people to the point of understanding this is
Right.
about you. This is about
Hmm.
the life that you can create for yourself if you let go of these things that are hounding you.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And, knowing this about your background and knowing how you've delved into relationships with people, in looking at this book that's coming out, that's going to me to be very beneficial for others to I think we could all learn something no matter how old we are. I'm old as dirt and I can still learn new things. And, I just don't ever think that we could ever stop learning. And, bravo for you for writing this book. When are
Thank
we
you.
going to get to hear it or see it? I mean,
Yeah, I'm still working with different literary agents to see where its home is going to be. I really wanted to
ah,
find a good place, and so I've had, a few with it, and I'm still kind of looking for that right fit for it. But
mhm,
I do publish the poems, the apologies themselves on the Instagram. They have their own website. And and then I do write the freelance articles cover a lot of the same topics in the book. So there is a lot of information and momentum behind it. So hopefully we can
mhm.
get a release date soon. But yeah, in the meantime, there's still plenty of ways people can benefit from it.
Right. I'm going to share my screen here and show. Um, First, I'll start with your website. Um, Really nice site.
Thank you.
And then Instagram that shows your different things here. Do you come up with these expressions?
The quotes are usually things I find or things that relate. This is actually a quote from my friend's grandmother. I used to tell
Oh,
her that. So I do try to pull from people and life experiences as well with some of the
hmm.
quotes. But yeah, I like to do on Wednesdays, my Wednesdays words of wisdom.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
yeah,
So,
so I like to
so
try to mix it up with content.
this one says, "Love many, trust a few, but always row your own canoe." I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wanted to read that out so our podcasters know what we're talking about. Oh, this one I love. Drink my coffee, keep it together, take down the patriarchy. Yeah, everybody knows me knows I'm a big coffee person. So, all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
that's great. Okay. Now you've also contributed to some anthologies too. Can you tell us
Yes.
about those?
Yeah, so I would say the one that I was kind of really excited about was the Glass of Wine with Edgar anthology. That's a lot of poetry that's based around, Edgar Allan Poe's type of work and his vibe. And it was kind of my first foray into dark poetry because usually, as you can see from my other things, it's a little more upbeat and humorous and light. And then this was kind of my foray into a darker type of poetry, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, and so this publication picked it up and put it in this anthology, and so I was just really excited about it because it was just so
Great.
different than my usual genres.
It's nice to go outside of your comfort zone. It's a good challenge.
Yeah, yeah, I like to try, different things because, a lot of my work does, rotate around dating and relationships.
Hmm.
But I think it's nice to have all these different creative outlets to keep it fresh and to keep it, interesting for me as the writer and then also for my readers. I think I can take, aspects of fiction or dark poetry and, where it's very emotion based and bring that into the articles as well.
And then you have the fruits of our quarantine.
Yes, that's another anthology that was a poem just about kind of what we've learned from our time in quarantine.
Oh, cool. I like that. I would participated in a quarantine poetry book called Taft Stays Home. It's a freelancer group I belong to, and we
Oh,
wrote
okay.
different poems. I wrote poems, and some people wrote essays about, the pandemic and about different things around that. It was a lot of fun to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, because that's really the poetry base, right? Like taking our experiences and taking our emotions and putting it into this thing that hopefully people can relate to and understand.
Hmm. Now, do you have some poetry that you'd like to share with us today?
So this poem is called Our Time Within, and this is the one featured in the Fruits of Our Quarantine book. What have we learned from our time in the dark? Have we learned inner peace or developed new art? Have we learned keeping secrets ends only in pain, in discovery unplanned, and more fear than gain? Have we learned that our minds are truly ours to control, that the aim of the world is to keep us quiet and droll? That if we keep our guard down for a moment too long, it will be too late to save us, our minds will be gone. To keep ourselves and our planet safe from the forces that ravage, from the ones who enslave? Have we learned to rise up, to correct injustice that creates such division, to learn to love each other with a new and clear vision? But have we learned these techniques, these mechanics of peace? Have we learned all the lessons? I guess we will see. If our mission we failed, in the afterlife we will all soon meet.
Very nice. Very valid concern with what's
Thank
going on with the quarantine, with everything that's going on with COVID.
you.
Are
Yeah.
you all doing better out there in California? Are things calming down or
Slowly but surely, we're kind of just getting to the point where everything's opening back up again. So we're
yeah,
getting there.
same here.
But yeah, but we've been really locked in for, the better part of the year. We've never
Hmm.
gotten gyms back. We've just gotten restaurants back. But yeah, there was even a time where our beaches and parks were closed. We were very, very in. So,
Hmm. Yeah, same here. We're opening up things now, but in some restaurants have been open and that, but I'm older, so I'm taking my precautions, and even
hmm,
though I've had the injections, I'm still being careful. So
yeah, that's good.
now, do you have any other poetry you'd like to share, or anything that you'd like to share with us that I haven't asked you about?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't have anything else really handy, but yeah, I mean, definitely people can check out the website. I'm always posting things there, so that's a good place to
Okay.
look.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Bethany, for coming on here today. We very much appreciate your time. Good luck with your book. Keep me posted, and once it's out, let me know so that I can, broadcast it.
Yeah, thank you. I will.
Once it's published, if you want to come back on and do some readings from it, and you'd be glad to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
great. All right. Well, thank you so much, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.